Democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Let's talk about buttered sausage. Talk about buttered sausage, where it comes from, what it does, why is it doing what it's doing. Get it out of my face. What about buttered sausage?
That's not your jam. It's not your thing. You don't like it?
It's not my jam. I don't buy jam. I buy honey, and I kiss it on the lips. This is the divine intervention. You can become a spiritual guru on your own, but you just have to tie your shoes, and you just have to know how to eat burritos backwards.
Yes, 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 yes. Double the double, yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Double the double, yes, 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 yes.
This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Touchdown! No!
Far into the windup and his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner loose.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Mike goes for three.
Yes! She is gone!
I don't believe what I just saw.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles?
You may fire when ready.
What?
Hello, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Sunday, August 27th. And this is the Team of Rivals podcast. Why are we here on a Sunday? Well, because there's been a lot going on and we just couldn't miss it. And I realized that in all these months, years of doing this intro, I never actually introduced myself. I introduce Ron. I introduce Elliott, but I don't introduce myself. So I'm Pete Geddes, Team of Rivals podcast. And look, I'm a man of integrity. I'm a man of my word. I can admit when I'm wrong. So I finally broke down, paid the money yesterday.
Yes.
And I will say I thoroughly enjoyed my first month of marquee streaming. I have not missed any Cubs games. So guys, you were right. You were absolutely right. I was looking for all the ways to get around the system, whether it was over the air broadcasts or certain websites that were set up to circumvent proper MLB streaming. But I love having marquee. It's really nice being able to watch the games. Anyway, with that, you can follow us on social media at Team of Rivals Pod or find us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. For those of you who prefer to watch the show, we also post to YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble occasionally, so hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure that notifications are on so that you know anytime we go live. You can also find more great podcasts and blog content on the Gateway City Sports Network, where we are proud members. Ron's kind of shrugging his shoulders. So.
I'm not really sure what's left of it, but we'll keep going. We're going to keep trucking along. I don't have enough detail here to be excited or not excited.
Okay. Well, there you go. So today, we'll definitely get into Shohei Ohtani. We'll get into Jordan WicKKKKKKKs. We'll talk about the terrible cards briefly because Ron can only stomach that for so long before he finally throws up. And I mean, guys, obviously we have to talk about the embarrassment that resides on the south side of the city of Chicago because, oh my God, it has been quite eventful in the 10 days since we last recorded. So joining me for this week's show, co-founder of the Team of Rivals and number 125 in the 2022 edition of C70's Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall, permanent occasional guest host, coming in on a Sunday, even though he's got plans in a little over an hour. Elliott Dewey. Gentlemen.
It's a test for old Elliott today.
It is.
See if he could jump on last minute. Pete, you jumped over it, but we got one more topic. We have to hit it.
I was going to say it, but, hell, we could talk about it right now.
Elbow. Well, we don't have to jump into it.
Actually, we shouldn't jump into it now because then all of the baseball fans will go, nerds, and end the podcast. So we'll give you guys a heads up before we're going to go into nerd territory. No, I haven't watched it. No, I haven't broken down, but I think that I've absorbed enough from the zeitgeist to at least be able to speak somewhat informed about it. We're you know what? We're actually right back where we
to the end, and if we don't have time, we don't have time.
Let's just put it this way: we are right back where we started when we launched this podcast, Ron. Because when we launched this podcast, I had not watched a single episode of Rebels, and I hadn't finished Clone Wars. And you're like, what are you doing? You have to finish so that we could talk about this.
I'm going to protest your protest. I'm not talking about anything related to that until you're back on the wagon. I don't want to talk to you about it because you've watched a couple of YouTube clips.
You don't want to talk about it?
No, not with you.
Elliott, you should turn on your mic so that we can hear you. I can see you getting very passionate there.
He was getting fired up,
right? He's got himself muted.
My favorite part, and of course, we're not streaming today.
I think you've got a software mute on, not a mic mute, Elliott, because we cannot hear you.
Huh? Have I muted him again? Because sometimes I'm tempted, but no, I didn't. Let me see if I can. I can disconnect him, but I won't do that either because you never know if he'll find his way back in or not. Family may show up.
That's right.
How about now?
There you are.
All right. Okay. You were getting animated there, so he had something good coming.
No, all I said was not only are you ruining it for Ron right now, you're ruining it for me because I would also like to talk about it.
You guys can talk about it. I'll just listen. Maybe. Hey, you know what?
It's not fun when you are participating.
Actually, well, it is. I'm sure that there are some people who would love to have 30 or 40 minutes where I don't say a word, starting with the two of you. But also, I mean, who knows? Maybe you guys talking about it may finally convince me, may break my will.
You were so good at one point of you would not get spoiled by anything. You wouldn't go on a watch. You wouldn't read about it. You were more disciplined than I was. Usually, I feel like that really doesn't ruin stuff for me. But anyway, you've got your way of going about it. So do I. But this time, you're willing to listen to us talk about something that you haven't seen yet. You want to see, but you are yelling at that nebulous cloud out there in the universe somewhere, hoping Bob Iger picks that signal up, and he is not going to get it.
It's not Bob Iger. Well, actually, it is Bob Iger, and from the rumors, he is picking up that signal, and it's only a matter of time. I'll reconsider when Kathleen Kennedy no longer lists her work address as Malibu, California.
Oh, she does. I didn't know this. I don't know if I cared to know it, but okay.
The rumor is that she's that they're putting things together, and that she is finally on her way out. When she's got her fingers.
When I see it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Anyway, so see, we've already.
If we have time.
If we have time, we'll go into nerd talk.
If I still feel so inclined to talk about it with Elliott while you commit audio terrorism over there and listen to it. Fine, but probably not. So let's go.
So the baseball fans probably want to hear us talk about baseball. So I don't know. Let's say Elliott, where do you want to start? Shohei, Cubs, Cardinals, or the White Sox?
Well, the big news amongst baseball is the UCL of one Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei?
Save that one, Pete.
Shuby.
Got a catalog.
Shooby-doo.
We got a catalog. All right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's big news because it's going to affect what he's going to get money-wise in his free agency. So,
Ron and I were talking about this before you jumped on, Elliott. This is ending very ugly because they're sniping at each other now, right? The Angels are saying that that he refused an MRI. Shohei's camp is saying that when he complained of arm tightness, the Angels kept putting him out there. This is not going to end well. He is definitely not going back to Anaheim.
He's not.
Maybe this is already out there, but it just made me think of this. If he refused an MRI, I'm wondering, Pete, if ultimately that's really why they couldn't trade him, because they knew there was something wrong or suspected something was wrong and he couldn't, because it's really difficult to grasp why they didn't, right? Like they thought they were going to go on some run. Of course, they absolutely didn't, right? They went in the opposite direction after post-deadline, but you got to wonder if that's some of the reason they just couldn't get it done. They didn't want that out there.
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. Although, I mean, if you knew that his arm was already bothering him,
you were pushing him to get an MRI and he wouldn't, but I don't know when that was, right? Because was that in July? Was that in June? Was it in May?
Right.
And they know if they trade him, they know they were going to get a truckload for him. And as soon as a physical was done, and I would assume a team, if they're going to give away that much talent for it, they're going to run the gambit, right? On a physical, they're going to do everything. So I don't know if an MRI is part of that, but
it would have been. It absolutely would have been, because he's already had TJ once.
Yeah, I would have to think so.
So that would have been, I mean, it's the same concern that scuttled Carlos Correa's multiple contracts was an old injury, right? He wasn't even presently injured. And he lost out on 2 contracts. So imagine, you would imagine that, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe there is a little bit of that kind of skullduggery in them not actually trading him.
Is this the same injury that he had before with his first Tommy John surgery?
I imagine so. It's usually the UCL. Right?
UCL, okay.
Because that's a ligament they replace.
Right.
So
right.
Wow.
Not good.
I like that conspiracy theory, Ron.
You have to think, right? Like why they didn't, because we all thought they were dumbasses for not trading him to begin with, and then to shit, Angels, enjoy your compensation pick or whatever you get from it, But this is ending poorly. A lot of things are ending poorly in this baseball season. Yep. And
I like the way though that Shohei went out and he said, okay, well, I mean, I didn't pitch for you, but I'm still one of the best hitters in the game. And he goes out and he hits a homer and a triple in the first game after it's announced he's not going to pitch again.
Well, that's the thing though, right? Like you still have that going. Second Tommy John surgery, if that's what ends up happening, right? I know he's going to get another opinion and everything on it, but he doesn't necessarily have to elect surgery, from what I've read. And I don't know that you do. And how many guys have had 2 of them? I guess there's one player.
Very few.
The question isn't how many have had 2, how many have had 2 and come back?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
and come back effective.
His pitching days could very well be done.
Yep. He could go the way of Rick Ankiel and become a right fielder.
Yeah.
No, he's already that.
And a DH, and eventually a first baseman.
And a DH, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you still have a pretty damn good player there, but I tell you what, though, that is going to cost him.
So
it's going to cost him a lot.
So that's actually the question that I want to ask. And I'm not looking at this from a market standpoint, right? I'm just going to say, if you guys were general managers, right? You're in charge of a team. Are you in the market for Shohei Ohtani this offseason?
If I need a bat, sure. If I need a bat in the middle of my order that can provide a lot of pop, a lot of excitement, yes, I'm in the market for him. If my biggest need, and I'll go to my team, need so much maybe isn't on the offensive side. It's we all know it's pitching, right? That's what we need. If I'm a GM and my team's in the same shape that the Cardinals are right now, then okay, I kind of backed off on even kicking the tires on Shohei. If his arm's blown out, I needed pitching. That's where I need to direct my resources to. So I'm out. I've already got an offense that's okay, right? Maybe could be a little bit better, but I'm probably out of that. He was much more attractive to me as both an arm and a bat, because it filled one of their primary needs. And I'm sure the Cardinals aren't alone. There's other teams that might be in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. Elliott, you're in Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer pick up the phone and they call you and they say, Elliott, we need your counsel. Are the Cubs in on Shohei this offseason now?
No, I don't think they are. I think their number one priority is going to be Cody Bellinger. And that's the exact same thing that Shohei is going to be able to provide you in the next season. He's not going to be able to do anything else. Cody Bellinger is going to be worth way more because he can play center field and first base.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's right.
Right. And if he elects to have the surgery, he's not doing anything until September of next year in the field throwing anything. I mean, we saw Bryce Harper come back from Tommy John surgery in what? God, his was ridiculously quick. He was back in 9 months.
I was going to say, there's another player I remember, if you remember Tony Womack. Let me pull that name out of the archives.
Yeah.
Former Cub.
Former Red Sox, former Diamondback, former Cardinals.
Former Pirate. I think he played for everybody.
Before he started.
Yeah.
And then he was traded to the Diamondbacks. But, same thing for him. I remember when St. Louis signed him, they signed him coming off of that, right? I think he was with the Red Sox, and they must have released him or something. The Cardinals picked him back up, and he recovered from his injury pretty quick too from the previous year. So about the same timetable. Yeah, position players tend to, I guess we got two examples we're pulling out of the air here, but probably maybe a safer bet, but still, I mean, his value is not obviously nowhere near the same.
He's not getting $500 million, right? Not anymore.
No.
And he's not getting 50 million AAV.
No. Not if he's not pitching, and not if there's a huge ass question mark on whether or not he will ever pitch again. Right. Yeah. I mean, and it puts a lot more oddities in there, because if they still wanted to use him as a pitcher, but out of the bullpen in short relief or even kind of long relief, even if that's serviceable, how does that work?
Man, I don't know. And you got to think too, are the Angels even going to extend a QO at this point, depending on what he has to do, what he elects, right? Would you even do that?
I think they do. I think the Angels absolutely have to, but 100% that Ohtani is going to decline.
Yeah, he'll decline that. I think because he wants to get out of Anaheim now. This is ending poorly. And also yes, he's not going to get $50 million a year, but I still think that he beats whatever he would get for the QO. I still think the market is there for him to beat it, right? Because Carlos Correa was looking at $30 million.
But so much of that depends on what he has to do, right? Is he just going to try to come back naturally, rest it, use other means?
Right.
If he's going to have Tommy John surgery, he may have to. And that may be in his best interest to come back and actually show that he's healthy, so he can hit the market again. He's still going to be young. Worst case scenario, he'll never pitch again, right? But probably somewhere middle of the road, he sticks it out another year, even if he hates it there, just so he can get back, I don't know. And it's a shitty situation, but the Angels are stupid.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. I'm out. If I'm a GM, I don't care. I mean, you really need a bat, but you're not, I guess you might build in some clauses, some escalators and such if he does pitch for you, but you're not paying him as the unicorn that he is. And I like Ken Rosenthal, but I think he made a stupid argument the other day saying that he's still worth $500 million because of the marketing opportunity and the potential that he could pitch. Well, that's not what you pay guys for. You don't pay guys for their marketing opportunities.
No,
you pay them for
100%.
Performance on the field.
There might be one or two teams that can do that, but it's not.
Yeah,
that's it. Most teams that we're used to dealing with, or we talk about the most, they can't throw money at problems like others can. So that market is going to be. If he gets anywhere near that, I'm really going to be surprised. And Pete, maybe you're right. Maybe there are a bunch of clauses if Union and his agent and everything agree to that. But yeah, if he gets anywhere near that, I would just be completely shocked. But it only takes one stupid franchise. We've seen him do it before.
Yep. And the Cubs have been one of those stupid franchises from time to time.
From time to time, yeah.
Okay. That's most we've talked about him in 2 years.
It is. Ever since, you go back.
Since he was coming up.
Yeah, and Ron didn't know who the hell he was.
I didn't care. I care. I cared. I got annoyed. Anytime you introduce a player as the savior of baseball before they've ever stepped onto a Major League Baseball field or facility, and you put their picture next to the defending World Series champions, I don't know. I get all wrong about it. I get all sideways, unhinged slightly. I got another clip I'm going to play for you guys in a second because I don't think you guys listened to it.
You're right. We probably didn't. Speaking of things that we didn't listen to and that most people aren't paying attention to, Ron, your team is terrible. Like Terrible, terrible. Elliott, I said to Ron again before you jumped on, I'm getting 90s Cubs vibes. Like, how could a team that has 2 potential Hall of Famers, how can they be this bad? Like, this is reminding me when the Cubs had Grace and Sandberg and Sosa, and they just couldn't do anything.
No.
And you look at that team, and the Cubs should have been good, and they weren't. And that's what's happening right now. You look, I mean, the Cardinals have.
The question is what is the root cause of it?
Yeah.
Like, is it just the clubhouse that they just don't mesh together, that, you know, they're not being forced to kind of have those kumbaya moments together? Do they just not care about it? Is there too many type A personalities in there where nobody gives a shit about each other? I mean, is it the fact that their pitching is just terrible, so we're like, what's the use? I mean,
and it's interesting, Elliott, that you bring up nobody gives a shit, because as Ron can testify from his attendance a week ago, Cardinals fans don't give a shit either. Oh my, I mean, like, it's gotten quiet on Twitter.
Very quiet.
It's gotten very quiet. I'm sorry, on X. It's gotten very quiet amongst Cardinals fans. There's not a lot of talk on there. I think they've just checked out and they're going on with their life and they're doing other things.
I imagine just if you could see a person. I know there's that one video or gif of the dog sipping coffee at the table while the house is burning down
this
around
is
him.
fine.
This is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. I imagine a little bit of it's like that. It's just, you know, what do you do at this point? I mean, you can talk about it till you're blue in the face. And I think everything that can possibly be said about what's happened to them this year has probably already been said. It's already been written about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not, it's not worth watching it. But here's the thing, and some of it's deserved, right? The whole best fans in baseball thing. I got a lot of that shit when I put that side-by-side picture, because I sat in the exact same and in May, even though they were still like 10 games under 500, they weren't off to a good start at all. To that picture in August, you know, same section, from the same section, showing, you know, out towards the outfield. I'm like, this is May to August right here, right? And granted, yes, it was 102 degrees. Yes, the heat index was 109. I can attest to this. It was hot as hell. But that's one. But I believe if they're in contention, or they're in first place, or they're in the wild card hunt, you know, they're in the thick of it, you don't see that. There might have been fewer people in the far regions of the upper deck, but you don't see that. I don't care how hot.
Yeah,
it's always been hot in St. Louis. Imagine, you remember that place when it was AstroTurf? You guys don't. You weren't there when it was AstroTurf, but I played a game on that damn thing in August, and it's always been hot there. St. Louis is a regional location, right? It doesn't have a population of 2.7 million like a Chicago does. You don't have that many people that are just going to jump on a quick train or walk a few blocks or go to the ballpark. They pull from across the river. They pull from 2 or 3 hours away. And I don't care if it's Sunday or not. If this team is as bad as they've been this year, there clearly are people that are like, you know what? I'm not getting in the car on a hot ass day like today to go down and watch this. And they were playing the Mets, right? And Mets are another huge, massive disappointment this year. So what's the reward for doing all that? Not much, right? Now there were some people in the concourse hanging out under the shade. You notice that the bleachers were completely empty. I think Don Glenn might've been out there. And I'll play a clip of him here in a second, but yeah, it was, you know, a lot of resale, right? They technically sold 36,000 tickets to that game. At what I imagine is just their full price, but the resale on that stuff, I think we talked about it last show, was, you know, you could sit down on the field down there for $20, you know, in a seat that's usually going to cost you 100 or 200 to plop your butt down in. So I've never seen it that empty, except when I played my American Legion game there. There might have been about maybe 60, 70 people in the stands, but yeah, it was, you know, look, if I'm the Cardinals front office, if I'm the marketing department, I'm looking at this going, this is a bigger problem, guys, than what you thought you could get away with, maybe having a bad year, but the fans will still come out. No, I think they sent a pretty clear message that we're not watching this shit. We're not going to. And yes, the best fans in baseball, use that in quotes around that. Yeah, they're getting called out for it. But if you want ownership to change what they're doing, Pete, what's the only way you're really going to do it? You're not going to go, right? And a lot of you have to agree to that. So, look, I don't think the Cardinal fans are that sly and cunning where they got everybody to not go on a Sunday game or that weekend. It's just they don't want to watch it. They don't want to watch what they're putting out on the field right now.
Yep.
Which is
and I can say I can attest the weather's not an excuse, because when the boy and I went down to St. Louis last year, we went on that Saturday game and it was hotter than Hades. And we were cooking, and that stadium, now granted, it's the Cubs and the Cardinals, but still, that stadium was packed. People were shoulder to shoulder. It was uncomfortable and it was miserable. People would take a break in the concourse to get out of the sun for a little bit, but then they were right back out in their seats.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ron,
I've been down there very hot. Yeah, I think Eric Fisher and I went to a game just over on a random weekend to see the Dodgers play. It's probably back in 2005 or 2004. I think it might have even been a weekday game. I don't think it was a weekend. And, you still have, 35,000 plus fans in the stands, even on a weekday game. So, yeah, I agree, Pete. I know the weather, I can't 100% discount. I'm sure some people elected at the last minute. They actually did that at the soccer game too, although it was sold out. There were hours before the MLS game that night, and it was a packed house. There were new tickets that showed up on SeatGeek at last minute. So I know heat was a factor.
Sure.
Tell you about that game in a second, but yeah, it's I don't know. The silver lining there is you really hope that they see this and go, we can't do this again. We can never do this again. We can never put a team out like this. So they got to figure out, just beyond the pitching, what's gone wrong. Not a lot, Now I will say that there are a lot of younger players getting a chance to play right now, like Richie Palacios. Never even heard of that guy until I never even knew of this guy till he came up in the order, because I wasn't paying attention to the announcements. They announced the starters and position players. I didn't know it was him that jumped over the wall and robbed a home run until the replay. And then I looked up. I'm like, who the hell is that in center field? Because that is not, obviously it's not Nootbaar. Palacios. Like, who the hell is this? And I had to look it up. And I'm like, okay, well, I've never seen this guy before. And there are names on the pitching staff right now that I really hadn't heard of either. So, yeah, they're letting some other people get a chance right now. These games are meaningless, which is probably a hard thing for a guy like Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt to kind of ride this out for another month, knowing that they're not really playing for anything, that they're giving some, they're testing a few of the young players out. One of the new pitchers has made a second start today. One of the guys that got the deal back for Jack Flaherty. So, meaningless games. That's all I can say. We're just, a lot of the fans in their lifetime, especially the younger ones, have never seen this before. So I don't know how well they are or are not handling it. I think I'm handling it pretty good. But I guess there are others that aren't. Maybe they deactivated their accounts or something on X.
Never thought I would see this, but this is 27 minutes ago. Guardians DFA Noah Syndergaard.
Really?
Yeah, he's been terrible.
Yeah,
he's been terrible, and
he was one of the most dominant pitchers with the Mets.
He was good. It was the whole hair persona and everything that also played a little bit into that. He was good though. Yeah.
Well, and also
it's just crazy.
It's the end of the era because Strasburg announced his retirement as well. I mean, we're seeing a number of dominant pitchers that are calling it a career.
What's surprising, and they didn't insure his contract. They're on the hook for all of it.
I know. We've got a new Bobby Bonilla. What did it say? They're paying him until I think it was 2029, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. $16 million a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think.
Maybe they could negotiate that with him as well, so that they could have Steven Strasburg Day for the.
But how do you not insure a deal like that? He was injury prone. He's always been injury prone.
And they're talking about maybe selling that team, right? Who wants to buy that albatross? $16 million a year for the next 6 seasons.
Yeah, they take it off their asking price, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, Pete. That's insane when you think about that's a contract. I mean, not my money, right? But I probably would have bought the Best Buy extended protection plan.
Probably.
Right? You don't buy it. I would have bought it on that brand name.
I wonder if they're going to make that available for Shohei.
Purchase. What was it at Sears? Maintenance agreement?
Yeah. Do you get the maintenance agreement with him, or do you get he's probably too high priced for the PPP.
Right? PPP, product protection plan.
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to have the maintenance agreement with Shohei. That's too much money for a PPP.
It is. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, you were born Too late. That's all I'm going to tell you.
That's right. Okay, I guess we're done with the Cardinals.
Who didn't get punched in the face with an MA conversation at the end of your purchase at Sears, right? We should run a poll on that. How many people have bought a maintenance agreement from Sears back in the day?
How many people bought a maintenance agreement from Ron or I back in the day?
None.
Oh, you didn't?
I don't know. You know who did? We all know who did.
Yeah, of course I do.
The techno Jesus himself.
He was a master at it. I tell you what, my first 6 months was pretty rough. I got fairly decent for it for a part-timer.
I sold more of those over in appliances, which I think is a little bit easier to sell. It's
100%.
Yeah. So, but no, not so much when sewing machines were on the line.
No. Did those come with MAs or were they PPPs?
Oh no, they were MA.
Were they?
Too.
Okay. You'd think that would be easy though. Those were probably like what, $29 for a 3-year.
I don't know, man.
God, we're into Sears MA.
Yeah.
There might have to be a reference to maintenance.
Speaking of something else, you guys, I don't know if you listened to this clip. I told you to. I'm going to call this little segment here Don Glenn Unhinged. Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
Right, so let's listen to it.
With Miles Michaelis hitting Ian Happ after Happ clubbed Wilson Contreras in the side of it. Now I know it was not intentional. Don't start reading that I'm saying Ian Happ's going out hitting guys with bats. That's not the case. It was an accident, and I'm going to give you that. But it's an accident that could have been prevented if we weren't so damn hyped up on analytics. Yes, I went there. And if any of you have listened to me in the past, I have never been a fan of analytics. This launch angle bullshit. This got to be swinging for the fences. This making everybody a dead pull hitter instead of actually teaching them how to goddamn hit a fucking baseball. Whoa. And if you don't like my language, I apologize. But I get a little upset. We've taken a game where guys or pros who took pride in their craft to hit the ball to all fields, to be able to bunt a goddamn baseball, to run the bases. Now we've turned them all into Ted Kluzinskis. Nothing but a home run will do. And that's crap. If you're one of these little millennial or Gen Zs or whatever the hell I lose track of that crap. But if you're one of these guys that think that, it's got to be home runs or nothing, then please go find another sport to follow. You're ruining baseball. And you can take Rob Manfred with you. Sorry. I apologize. I don't.
Sorry, I apologize.
You know, it's funny because when you sent us that link and I listened to it, I was like, it kind of just sounds like Ron with a slightly deeper voice and an accent.
I don't know that I know I've had my issues with how people talk about that stuff. If not necessarily the content itself, it's how the baseball marketing machine puts it on TV. We can't just say, man, that guy walloped that damn ball. You got to know what angle it came off the bat, and you have to know the exit velocity. The fans have to know that, or they can't possibly grasp the greatness of that player. But Don, evidently he has a deeper hatred for that stuff than even myself.
I didn't know that was possible. And here's the thing. I don't know how you feel about it, Elliott. I think I know. I know that Ron is with me. He's not wrong. The game's not wrong. The game's not as much fun.
That's Talking Sports on the Bleachers with Don Glenn. It's another Gateway City podcast. Check that one out. We'll do a little promotion for him since we were enjoying Don, off his damn trolley there for a second. That's okay.
I mean, analytics have its place in the sport, but he's right about some stuff. Yes. Well, I agree with him on some stuff.
I agree. I think we all agree with the sentiment there. Right.
Yeah.
Let me give you this though. So Andrew Kisner, backup catcher for the Cardinals. He's swung the bat really well recently. He attributes some of it to wiffle ball. He just went back to just hitting a wiffle ball, just using his toe tap or his leg kick or whatever he's re-employed that he got away from when he became a professional. He's went back to just hitting a wiffle ball. So it makes you wonder, guys, about all this information that players are given, like individually, all this data that's available to them. You wonder how much of it is just,
bullshit.
My analysis, right? Where you could be Elliott, but I mean, sometimes there's something to be said for just getting back to the basics, right? And some of these players, that's one case, and I'm sure there's been a few more of guys that were like, probably like, I've learned 100 different things about my swing in the last month. I've got 100 different tips and tricks on what to do, where to put my mind, as well as my body, and how to maximize every time I make contact. And you can just understand some people stepping out of it, like going back into the wilderness, living off the land and getting out of the city. That mindset, you can totally see how that might work on an athlete. Where
you mean C-ball, hit ball?
Yeah, really, that's what I mean, right? And so
I mean, if he's taking it back to that kind of basic thing, that's honestly what it is. It's
kind of like just unplugging from the grid, right? Like getting away from everything so you can learn yourself again, because you've had so much information flashed at you that you're like, I'm more screwed up. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Sorry.
Like I'm so much more screwed up now because of I've tried to do 100,000 different things. And I feel more screwed up. I'm going to get back to the basics. And I guess you hear about people doing that in life all the time.
But I think we've got a great example of it too. Last night, transitioning to the Cubs, I think that Jordan Wicks was maybe a little bit too much in his head at the beginning of the game last night, because he came out, he gave up a home run, a rocket single, and then he walked Andrew McCutchen. And I don't know that he threw more than a couple of changeups in there. And Tommy Hotovy came out and said to him, basically, your stuff's good enough. Trust your stuff. And then all of a sudden he starts breaking out that changeup and making major league hitters look like fools. Now, granted, it's the Pirates, but still, he retired 15 straight, and you saw a lot of his changeup. And that's what, when he got drafted 2 years ago, everybody said his changeup is major league ready right now. And you kind of wonder if he didn't get in his head and he's like, oh, well, I can't throw the changeup until I've established the fastball, because the changeup plays off the fastball. No, dude, your changeup's good enough. Just throw the changeup. Just throw it. They're not going to get it.
And it's ridiculous, like when they said, well, he has 6 pitches. Like, how many major league pitchers do you know besides
Yu Darvish?
Yu Darvish that has 6 pitches. And he threw everything.
Yep.
Yes, he mostly threw his changeup, threw his fastball, threw the slurve, threw the curve. I mean, it was nuts. So, but yeah.
I will admit something here, guys. This is my own ignorance. I feel a little bit silly, but it should be funny to you guys. Pete, when you texted me Jordan Wicks with a bunch of K's behind it, I thought that was a jab at, look how well Jordan Hicks is doing in Toronto with all these W's and K's. I had no idea that this Jordan Wicks guy even existed. Yeah.
He is a homegrown Cubs pitcher drafted.
Didn't know.
9 strikeouts in his major league debut. And it's hard to believe this is the first homegrown starter that the Cubs have brought up who's had any kind of not any kind of success, who the Cubs have brought up as a starter since Mark Pryor.
What about Hendricks? Did he come? Hendricks come from another?
Hendricks came from the Rangers.
Was a trade.
Okay, all right.
But he did start with the Cubs in Single A, worked his way up.
But still, he was drafted by the Rangers.
Right.
And he was the throw-in on that trade.
Yeah.
Well, you know how that works sometimes, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't Sandberg throw in?
Yeah. Yeah, he was the big.
McGee was too.
Yeah, the big move was to get Larry Boa.
Ooh.
It was not to get Ryan Sandberg.
A Hall of Famer.
A Hall of Famer. Yeah.
All right. Well, like baseball's funny is how, I tell you the one thing we haven't heard though. I'll go back to a question you were asking me early on. Not of this show, just early on in the year. How soon will the Cardinals fans turn on Contreras? Right. I've answered it a few times. I'll just give you an update. They still haven't. And you don't hear shit about it these days, right? You don't hear anything. If anything, Cardinals fans stuck with him more than his own organization did, and that's still the case. We'll go back to a couple of one of the. I believe we talked about this, maybe not. Miles Michaelis tried calling his own game one time this year. Tried calling his own game through PitchCom. Lasted 1 inning.
It didn't go well.
No. Lasted 1 inning, and these are guys like you thought, well, is that a little bit of a backhanded shot at Contreras the way he's calling games? Fuck it, I'm just going to call my own. and it lasted 1 inning. So I don't know. Excuses are running out, right? Like this pitching staff was actually, and it is that bad. And I think the heat has come off of him, which is good. I think it never should have been there in the first place.
How interesting that it's the Cubs who currently have a better pitching development pipeline than the Cardinals. I don't think that's ever happened in my lifetime.
No, they've tried to restock it too. We'll see where all these arms that they were able to acquire at least got them. But yeah, there's not a lot down there, man. There's not a lot of stuff that makes you gonna say wait till next year.
And meanwhile, Elliott, I mean, you got to be thrilled. And Jordan Wicks isn't even supposed to be their best one. He's just
not.
the one who's the most advanced and the most ready. That's why they called him up.
You still have Ben Brown, Cade Horton. I mean, those are two starting pitchers right there that are rated higher than what Jordan Wicks is.
You have like a bird atrium in the next room?
No, I think that was a child being tortured.
No, it's my neighbor's kids.
Oh my God. How close do your neighbors live?
Not real close. They're jumping on a trampoline in the backyard next door.
Sweet. All right, boys. I'm going to have to jump because it's just about our time. But I will tell you, just quick update. No, we're going to run out of time for that one thing that I don't want to talk about with Pete on the line anyway.
You don't want to talk about the White Sox?
I do, but hang on. So I did move my son into college on Tuesday.
Yeah, how'd it go?
Congrats.
Able to take him to, a Cardinals-Mets game, which neither of us was dying to go to, but we figured we're going to be there. We're going to go, and it didn't cost a whole hell of a lot to go either.
Were you there for the Mason win, Pete Alonso?
I wasn't there for that game. That was on the Friday night before.
That was okay.
No. That's another thing, too. Like, I genuinely believe this. Now, when it happened, I thought, man, that guy's a dick. He totally knew that was this kid's first hit.
He doesn't strike me as being particularly bright.
But in the post game, I'm like, oh shit, he's being serious. He's just dumb as hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's over with. He made a nice gesture in between games, about it, apologize and all that. So no big deal. I think most people forget about it. But the game, we talked about the game enough. Empty stadium. Surprising yet not surprising. It was the soccer game, man. Hot as hell there, but really, really cool match. 6-3. They took 2 cooling breaks in between during the halves, and I've never seen that before.
Really, I've never seen that.
Well, you see a lot of these soccer players now wear these shirts that monitor everything. They track, how tired these guys are getting. I'm sure a lot of their body temperatures, all these, and they took 2 3-minute stoppages in the halves for just a cooling break, just so people can get. I'm assuming water, whatever they needed, right, in their bodies. But it was hot as hell there. But it was 6-3. Really, really cool experience. I'd never been to an MLS game before, and I know I get proud of the city that I cheer for. But if I hadn't known any better, like if I wasn't paying attention to anything in the world and I was just thrown into the park, I would have thought the city's probably had a team for a long time. If there's that much energy. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience. It only seats about 22,500, but it was completely full, and it was pretty rowdy, but it was fun. It was a 6-3 game too, so you don't go to many soccer games to see 9 goals. So it was worth it. It was worth it. But yeah, the boys in college now, 1 down. Good news is there's only 3 to go.
Yeah, but they're a long way off. You got plenty of time to save.
No, yeah.
Anyway, all right, White Sox.
White Sox. Oh my God, this is one of those where you almost need to say, kind of like the Athletics, just shut this franchise down. In the last 10 days, and I'm sure everybody's heard it, but in the last 10 days, it's gotten out that they're looking at, now, obviously, they're just trying to negotiate a new stadium financing deal, but still, it's gotten out that they're looking at moving out of Comiskey Park, whatever you want to call it, it's Comiskey.
Yep.
They fired their their executive vice president and their Michael Gersh. And then 2 fans.
His name, because we couldn't remember it.
I can't remember his name. Rick Hahn. There it is.
Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams.
Rick Hahn.
There you go.
And then just last night, no, night before last.
Night before
last. So Friday night, 2 fans in the park were struck by a bullet fired from outside the stadium, and the White Sox and the Chicago police have still not figured out how that happened. Seriously. Delete. This is one of those delete your account, right? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Where are they going to move?
Well,
Gary?
that's a good point. Well, no, they're
Gary,
not
what?
Gary.
And they threatened to get.
What they said? Arlington. They said they may move to Arlington,
Aurora,
or just play at Soldier Field. Was that one of them?
Yeah, they can't fit in Soldier Field. There's no way you could play baseball in there.
They can't even play football in there. Not yet. Anyway.
Maybe the city would be willing to do something to accommodate them.
Yeah, maybe. And they're obviously not moving out of it. They're obviously not going to move away from Chicago. I know that there was talk about that, but that's just not going to happen. They're not moving.
Nah, it's one of the older organizations, right? Like,
yeah. They said. I think they said Memphis. Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, they're not moving to Memphis.
No way.
Well, I know that Nashville's on the radar for either expansion, or it'd be funny if the Brewers moved down there. That shithole up in Wrigley North fell apart.
Well, yeah, they're talking about moving too.
I know,
because they also want to do a new stadium deal.
Who doesn't want a new stadium deal? Where's Oprah when you need her? You get a new one.
You get a new one. You get a stadium. You get a stadium.
All right, man. White Sox. Very forgettable. This last decade. Yep.
So one of these days, when we've got a little more time and Ron and Elliott don't have other commitments, we'll talk about Osaka. Definitely one of my favorite Japanese cities, one that I eventually want to see and that my son's very excited about. So,
is that an anagram you just threw out there?
I don't know. I could act like it.
Okay.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to do the same. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts, but no longer on Stitcher because Stitcher has gone the way of the dodo. We also occasionally live stream on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. So be sure to follow us there to get notifications when we do go live. Be sure to maybe check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts.
Once I find out who's...
Ron will find out.
I find out the lineup here. I just don't know it at the moment.
And in case you missed it, you did get a taste of Talking Sports on the Bleachers with Don Glenn. So we'll at least mention that one.
He's there. Yeah, he's there.
He's there. You can find Elliott on X at
TOR_Elliott.
And you can find Ron at
TOR_Ron75.
So get in touch with us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com or on any social media channel, Team of Rivals Pod. Gentlemen, I'm glad we were able to jump on.
Same here.
We'll see you guys soon.
We will see you soon. All right. I'll go with my line. I'll see y'all. I'd say same time, same place next week, but we're on a Sunday. Maybe we'll be back Thursday. Maybe not. We'll see. You'll know when we know. We love y'all so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.